In this video, I discuss how Social Security will be fixed long before the 2034 depletion date. Coming up next on Holy Schmidt.
Holy Schmidt!
There's a lot of discussion about the demise of Social Security and what can be done to fix it before it's too late. This has become much louder as of late because of the general tensions in Washington and also because we're just over a decade out from 2034. Some people say that in 2034, Social Security will come to an end, that it's too complicated and there's no clear solution to fix it. The reality is that's not true. The options are actually fairly straightforward and easy to understand, and it will come down to what causes the least disruption for future Social Security recipients and current taxpayers, in my humble opinion. Let me get into what is least likely: letting it go. Letting Social Security go would end a politician's career faster than an embarrassing photo, a hot mic, or a backroom deal that ends up on the front cover of the Wall Street Journal. Also in 2024, and frankly in 2028, we'll be far enough away from the big date that any course correction won't have a dramatic impact on either the program or the way to fix the program. We'll talk about these options next, and I will give you my considered opinion about the least likely and most likely outcome with the options that we discuss. Let's get into it, but before we do, I have a mind bender for you. How do you make the number 7 even without addition, subtraction, multiplication, or division? I'll show you the answer at the end. All right, let's go. What I'm going to show you next are the ones that are most commonly discussed, and frankly, the ones that are most viable. I've discussed these from least likely at the beginning to most likely at the end, and along the way, I discuss the problem that each option possesses. Option number 1, family benefits such as the spousal benefit or the child benefit can be reduced from 50% of the primary insurance amount to something lower. Even a small adjustment down, say 5%, could add significant assets to the pool and extend the life of the Social Security trust. The biggest challenge with this is that you can't implement it retroactively. You can't take benefits away from someone already receiving benefits, and you also can't take benefits away from someone who's near retirement and counting on those benefits. So this needs to be phased in over years, so the person approaching retirement doesn't suddenly find out that their cash flow has gone down. Option number 2, reduce the cost of living adjustment to reflect the cost of living adjustment in the retiree's regional city. Let me start by saying that it would be rare for a Social Security recipient to say that the cost of living adjustment was more than the increase in their personal expenses. This is particularly true if you live in a state like Hawaii or California, perhaps parts of New York, and even more true as you get closer, as you live closer anyway, to the major cities. But we live in a big country, and there are other states that aren't as affected by an increase in the cost of living. For example, Georgia or Kansas, perhaps Oklahoma, are 3 that come to mind, but there are literally dozens that you could go to, and at least within pockets of those states, the COLA would be less than the national average. If the national COLA was the cap, you would see that some of the regions would have a lower cost of living adjustment than the overall cap on the program. The biggest challenge with this is that it would be pretty easy to game the system. A retiree who has a retirement home anyway, in South Carolina and goes there during the winter would never come back. And that would mean that those that are living in the less expensive areas would supplement those that are gaming the system. Option number 3, a retiree's PIA, their primary insurance amount, their Social Security payment in other words, could be tweaked to reflect if someone had a higher lifetime income and therefore higher Social Security. The way the PIA is calculated is that the Social Security takes your historical earnings over the last 35 years or your best 35 years and averages them in today's dollars. They then take that number, divided by 12 for a monthly number, and they run it through a calculation. That calculation gives the primary insured 90% of the first $1,115, 32% of the amount between $1,115 and $6,721, and 15% of the balance. By reducing the payment to the second and third tier by a few percentage points, you are increasing the longevity of the trust, and at the same time, those with the least need because they had the highest lifetime income would be least affected. In theory anyway. This works politically, but some would say there is a fairness element to this choice. High earners contribute the same amount as a percentage of their income as low earners, but get dramatically less as a percentage of their overall contribution to the system as a starting point. Saying that we're going to make that even lower would create an issue, at least for some of the recipients. Also, you couldn't really do this to someone who's already receiving benefits or to someone who is close to receiving benefits. This means, practically speaking, it doesn't solve the 2034 problem unless it's implemented very, very soon. Option number 4, raise the full retirement age from 67 to 68. This is one of the most powerful ways to fix the problem with the trust, but it's also one of the least likely because we just came off of 6 years of gradual increases from 66 to 67. To do it again right away would not be great politically. The reason that this is so impactful, by the way, is that by raising the full retirement age from 67 to 68, you get about 8% back from those that collect before full retirement age. The SSA also gets a year back from those that do wait to collect until full retirement age. This is because you only have so many years on this planet, and whether you collect Social Security at age 67 or 68 won't fundamentally change the number of years, at least for most of you, that you have on this planet, but it will mean that you have to delay collecting Social Security by 1 additional year. Of course, this only works for those that aren't currently collecting Social Security, and again, you'd have to phase in the change from 67 to 68 over a period of time. Option number 5, the Social Security Trust invests in more than U.S. government bonds. Social Security paid out $1.1 trillion in 2021. 76 billion of that came from interest income on investment in U.S. government securities. In 2021, the average yield on those government bonds was 2.6%. If the government mirrored the investment activities of many state and local municipalities, and in fact many countries, and invested in low-risk corporate bonds, the return could go up by 25, maybe even 50%, and still remain relatively safe. The big advantage to this is that you're not changing benefits to accomplish something. You're simply taking the trillions of dollars of money in the Social Security Trust and investing in something besides government bonds. The downside of this is that the U.S. government isn't in the business of investing in private industry securities. The investment function would need to be set up within the government, skills would need to be developed or acquired from private industry, and curbs would need to be put in place so that no unnecessary risks were taken with Social Security funds. Option number 6, the amount of Social Security earnings subject to taxation could be increased. Currently, up to 85% of a recipient's Social Security payment can be taxed as ordinary income. Taxation on Social Security was 0 before 1983, and in 1983 it went to 50% to address what was perceived to be an unfair advantage to the wealthy. In 1994, it went to a maximum of 85%. The taxation on Social Security payments goes back into the Social Security Trust. It doesn't go into the government's general account. And of course, that would still be necessary to make this option work to shore up Social Security beyond 2034. In 2021, by the way, $41 billion of taxes paid on Social Security went back into the Social Security Trust. The big advantage to this is that it can be controlled so that those with lower or low income don't get affected by this change, while those with higher income do in fact get affected by this change. The downside is that the thresholds for taxation haven't increased since the taxation began, so the reality of protecting the low-income recipient may be just a fantasy. Option number 7, and the one that I think is most likely, is that payroll taxes will increase from 6.2% to something higher. This is the easiest and most likely option because it fixes the problem immediately. It doesn't cut benefits to those that are on the verge of collecting Social Security or in Social Security, and frankly, it's one that has been done several times before. Also, it can be used in conjunction with one or more of the other longer-term solutions that require a phase-in. For reference, the original Social Security tax rate was 1%, and the employer's contribution was 1%, so collectively it was 2%. In 1950, that went to 1.5% for the employee and 1.5% for the employer. This gradually increased over time to 5% in 1978, 5% for the employee and 5% for the employer. The current rate of 6.2% for the employee and 6.2% for the employer has been in place since 1990, and it has stayed at that level for 30 years. This is the longest stretch of no Social Security tax increase since the program's inception in 1935. How do you feel about the options we just discussed? Put your thoughts in the comment section below so that others can see them and add their comments to your comments. Oh, and the answer to the mind bender. How do you make the number 7 even without addition, subtraction, multiplication, or division? You drop the S. Please don't forget to hit the like button to help this video in the search results. Also, if you haven't done so already, please consider clicking subscribe and turning on notifications so that you get alerted the next time I post a video. I post about twice a week. Check out this video on 6 common misconceptions about Social Security. This is Jeff Schmidt. Thanks for watching.